time for Real Talk with Iris, with your host, Iris Wright. The talk show dedicated to making our communities better, building relationships, networking, and supporting small businesses. Join us every week as we discuss new and creative ideas to improve our neighborhoods and communities. This is your chance to get motivated, inspired, and encouraged. So let's get set for another amazing episode of Real Talk with Iris with your host, Iris Wright.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Real Talk with Iris. I have a special guest, guys, and you're going to want to tune in and listen to this story here. I decided to bring in a live audience for us today, but I have Miss Lorette Powell, and we're going to talk about some very serious issues that's going on in our medical system and what is happening. And you're going to hear a little bit about her story and what she's had to go through the last 15 years because of medical malpractice. So, Miss Lorette, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So, thank you for coming on and sharing this with us today. A lot of what you're going to talk about today is happening a lot. So the first thing I want to do first is I want you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. My name is Lorette Powell, and I am a private duty caregiver. I take care of patients that are in hospice, and um, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2009.
Now, when you say, because that's what this show is about today. You were diagnosed with MS. You've been going through this for 15 years. And, tell us a little bit how this came about and, go ahead and go into your story some for us.
Okay. So in September of 2009, I was at work, and one of the young ladies had gone out to lunch, and she came back and she brought some cookies. She asked me, did I want a cookie? And I said yes. It was one of those cookies with the M&Ms in it. I was sitting there, and the moment I bit the cookie, the right side of my face went numb. Like I lost feeling instantly in the right side of my face. So I automatically assumed that some of the, cookie must have got into my tooth or something, and it was a dental issue. But I left work and went straight to the dentist. I got there about 3 o'clock, and they did an oral exam, they did X-rays, they did everything, and he said, "No, this isn't. This numbness in your face has nothing to do with this cookie that you bit. You need to go to your primary." So I ended up at the primary office at 4:15. And my primary, I was 35 years old at the time, and my primary had been my doctor since I was 18. I told him about the cookie, told him what happened, and he said, maybe we should call a neurologist, and have your head checked out because the feeling was still gone. So he contacted a neurologist that he knew and scheduled me an appointment for the very next day. I went to that appointment, and when I went, the neurologist said, I'm going to order an MRI and we'll get the results back. I'll reach out to you and let you know what we see. So when we go out to check out, the secretary said, hey, I have a cancellation for tomorrow. Would you like to get the MRI tomorrow? So I'm like, absolutely. I don't have any feeling on the right side of my face. And so I went and I had the MRI. And within 2 hours, this neurologist called me back and he said, I need you to come into my office in the morning. And I'm like, okay. He's like, come at 7:30. So I instantly said, why am I coming at 7:30? It must be really serious because the office isn't even open at that time. You had to find something, So we get there, my husband and I get there, and we're not in neither one of the exam rooms. We're in the office. And he takes his computer and turns the monitor around and he goes, "This is your brain stem. This and what how I'm saying it to you is exactly how he said it to me. This is your brain stem. This is the lesion at the top of your brain stem. You have multiple sclerosis. It's inoperable because of where it's at, and this is what you're ultimately going to die from. Also, because you are African American, we need to treat you aggressively because multiple sclerosis runs rampant in African Americans." And I'm sitting there like, okay, repeat that. Now, you just got me lost. You just said I have a terminal illness. I'm gonna die, and being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And he said yes. He said, so you can stop telling people that it was a cookie. And I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to process what he's saying. And he was like, I'm going to start you on some prescriptions. He wrote me 4 prescriptions that day. And he said, I'm going to start you on injections. These injections will come from the pharmaceutical company. They should arrive to your house in a couple of weeks, and you'll inject every week with this medication. And this medication should help you maintain the lesion that's on your brain. And he did exactly that. And I started with the medication regimen. Um, I ended up walking outside the office and falling to the ground crying because it was a lot to take in. I was just told that I was gonna die from a terminal illness, and it was just so hard to process. And it just started where they were like, okay, we got to give you the medication. We got to give you the medication. Within about a year, I started to um, experience a lot of pain and different symptoms I started to develop. And so now they're like, yeah, your MS is progressing. So we're going to start infusions. You're going to have to come 3 times a week. And they would put an IV in my arm and they would do infusions. And this care went on for years. This doctor that diagnosed me, I only kept him for 2 years. And then I ended up switching to another doctor because I didn't like that neurologist's manners. So I went to a different neurologist and I said to him, is it possible, you can do another MRI? Here's my second opinion. Is it possible you can do another MRI, read through all my chart and see how I was being treated by the last neurologist and tell me where you think we should go? And he did. Now, this second neurologist was known all over the world. He had taught lectures at different colleges. He came highly recommended for me. And he also said, yep, the x-ray show you have MS. And he treated me aggressively uh, with medications. And I kept him as a doctor until he retired. Then I had to find another doctor, and I went into a practice of another doctor that was referred to me. This doctor, same thing. Can you do an MRI? Let me know where I stand with this lesion that's on my brain. And he did. And he came back and said, yes, the lesion is on your brain. It's right at your brain stem. And, let me switch your medication. So I went from injecting 1 time a week to a new medication where I was injecting 3 times a week. As I'm doing all of this, I developed diabetes. It was brought on by the amount of prednisone and steroids I was taking. Um, I got to the point where I couldn't walk. I had to quit my job. I was bedridden for a while. And this was all because they kept saying my MS had got to the point where I was almost terminal. So they're treating me, I'm going in, I'm going to emergency. Um, And now that I look back, when I went to the emergency room, I always wondered why the neurology team would come downstairs and they would look at me and say, listen, all we can do is get you comfortable, but when it comes to the medicine, you're going to have to go back to your doctor, your neurologist. They didn't order or switch or change nothing. They just said nope. And I'm like, they must have saw something because they were confused at why I was so sick. Um, I ended up in 2016 starting to have pain in my head. And this pain in my head was so bad that it affected my eyesight. Um, I couldn't, I was debilitated. I couldn't move. Like this pain was a pain like no other. Um, and it reached a point when that happened in 2016, I honestly began writing my own obituary. Like that's how sick I was. I started writing my own obituary because I just knew that this was it. Because I had never experienced pain like this. So they were like, you got to go see a specialist, a different neurologist. So I went to that neurologist and he said, because you have multiple sclerosis, you have developed a disease called trigeminal neuralgia. And with the trigeminal neuralgia, it affects the front part of your brain, and that's why you're in so much pain. The only way to fix this is surgery, and we have to operate on your brain. And I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna go for that one. I said, because anything can happen. I thought y'all said the lesion was on my brain, and if you operate, I could die. So why are we gonna open up my head? He's like, no, I won't go near the lesion. We're just gonna deal with the trigeminal neuralgia in the front. And so I agreed because it was so painful. So they did go in and they did the surgery on the right side of my face first. In 2018, the pain returned, and it was this time it was on the left side. Um, and as this is happening, my body is deteriorating. I'm gaining weight. Um, um, I'm losing control of my bowels, my bladder. I just was getting sick and sick and sick. And they were like, okay, let's do the second surgery. Now I get another neurologist who did an MRI and documented that my MS had progressed. And this is why I had been so sick. So I have the second brain surgery. And then after that, I started my own business and my health insurance changed. I called to schedule an appointment in this clinic. And one of the things I should have said is that all of these doctors that I had, they all were in the same practice except for the one that I left and went to and retired. So I went the practice that I went back to on being 5 years diagnosed. I went back to a different practice and every doctor was in there. I saw them for the rest of the 10 years that I was told I had MS. So if one retired, I would just go to one of the other doctors that's in the practice. Um, and so my health insurance changed. And I called to make an appointment, and they were like, we don't take your insurance. So I tried to convince them to take it or see what they could do or work with me because I had been there for 15 years. And I felt like, if, why wouldn't y'all allow me to stay here? Y'all the ones been treating me for 15 years. And they said no. So I said, well, what do I do? They said, call your primary. Your primary will refer you to a neurologist that will take your insurance. And so my primary did exactly that. I scheduled the appointment in October of 2023. When I scheduled the appointment, the office didn't have an available appointment until March the 28th, 2024. And I went to that appointment on March the 28th. When I got to the appointment, typically if I'm going to have to make a decision that affects, my life or the MS, my husband will go with me. But because I knew I was just kind of doing like a meet and greet with my neurologist, I'm just going to be here a few minutes. I'm gonna go by myself from work, and I did. And when I got there, this female doctor came in, and she was acting very strange. She started the conversation off with, "Can you tell me about your eyes?" And I'm looking like, "Tell you about my eyes? What's wrong with my eyes?" And she's like, "Your eyesight." I said, "Well, with the diabetes, I ended up having to get glasses. But that's about about it. And so she says, well, tell me about the brain surgeries. So I'm telling her about the brain surgeries, but I'm like, okay, but why are we going around with these questions? Just come out and do the checkup and let's, figure it out, read my charts. And she just kept acting weird. So I told myself, I'm like, after today, I'm gonna have to get me another neurologist because she was acting as if she didn't know what she was doing. That's what I was picking up. And then finally, she turned to me and looked me in my face, and I know it had to be the hardest thing because she looked like she couldn't breathe. And she said, "I don't know how to tell you this, so I'm gonna just come out and say it. You don't have MS." And I said, "What do you mean I don't have MS?" She said, "You don't have MS and you never had MS." I'm like, "Ma'am, do you realize who you're talking about? Like, are we in the same chart? You know, uh, do you know my history? Like, why would you stand here and say that?" And she's like, "I do know your history. I have been over your medical records. I had 3 months to go over your medical records." I said, "Yeah, but I had two brain surgeries. Like, I had Medicare. I had Social Security. Like, what are you saying? Like, that I can't get that stuff without having a terminal illness." She said, "Based on your paperwork, it was documented as if you were terminally ill, but your MRIs showed something else." She said, "So I began to dig deeper and I realized that everything that they did was unwarranted. They used you as a guinea pig and injected you with chemicals that you didn't need. And as of today, I'm taking you off of everything because I want no parts of what these people have done." And I'm like, "Ma'am, there's no way that all of these doctors prescribe medications to me for no reason, absolutely no reason. Like, it's not." She said they did. I'm like, "Ma'am, I was shocked. I'm like, there's no way." And I said, "You do know that it's like five of them that I had in the same practice. And why would they all say the same thing?" She said, "They cover for each other. But I took an oath and I want no parts of what they did to you. So I am undiagnosing you. I'm taking you off of everything. You will not die from multiple sclerosis. Go live your life. Go live your life." And then I'm like, "Okay, so what's going to happen to me?" And she's like, "We don't know." And this is where the fear came in because coming off of the medication, I had so much withdrawal symptoms. My body was going through major trauma. And I'm calling the neurologist that undiagnosed me to say, "Hey, what are we going to do? Like, I'm experiencing all this pain." And she said, "Unfortunately, you can't come back." So I'm like, "What do you mean I can't come back? You undiagnosed me. You took me off all these medications and you just dumped that in my lap and I'm supposed to do what with it?" And she was like, Legally, I can't have you come back because I undiagnosed you. You don't have a terminal illness. So therefore, your insurance will not cover you seeing a neurologist. So I can't have you come back in the office because you don't have MS." I said, "Yes, but I'm going through withdrawals. You took me off the medications. What do we do?" And unfortunately, they didn't know what to do because they never had experienced somebody coming off of all of these meds. I was on seizure meds, I was on injections, I was on gabapentin, I was on prednisone, I was on I had so many pills, and so they did not know how my body was going to react to coming off of all this medication. But now I have my primary and the other neurologist saying, "We don't know, we want no parts of this. I'm sorry." And so I said, so basically, I'm just left out here in this world, told that I don't have MS, going through all these withdrawals, and nobody know what to do for me. Not a soul know how to treat what I got going on. And she's like, "No, we don't want to give you no more meds." Like, that's the whole thing. Um, but they kept saying if it get worse, go to emergency, different things. But I just suffered. I suffered really bad coming off of it, and I still do from time to time. And so I just, After I processed it, I reached out and I tried to get an attorney locally here where I live, and nobody would take my case. Nobody would touch it. Um, I was told multiple times, sorry that this happened to you, but unfortunately, because you were treated for 15 years, you've maxed the statute of limitations. You only had 1 year to figure out that you didn't have MS, and the fact that it's 15 years later, the doctors are covered um, because of the statute of limitation. And I said, but this is a crime. What they did to me is a crime. So you're telling me I will never get justice? And the attorneys here said, no, you'll never win this case in court. You'll never win this case in court because the law isn't set up that way. And so I had to find a lawyer out of state. I found one in Atlanta, Georgia, who has been, reviewing all my medical records and going over everything and trying to come up with um, the best plan to bring up the criminal charges. But in the meantime, I decided to do the Make It Right movement because these doctors don't want to make it right. They are still practicing medicine. There's no telling how many other patients they're doing this to, and the behavior needs to stop. They violated my body, they violated my mental health, and basically said, there's no justice for you. We're sorry. And so I'm saying, I am the victim. But you guys are saying basically what happened to me is my fault as the patient because I should have known. There's no way I could have known that every last one of these doctors was going to falsify documentation. So, how is falsifying documentation? How is telling a person that they're in the middle of a flare, that you have MS and your MS caused the trigeminal neuralgia, but you don't have MS? So, I'm like, we all know that this is a crime. And I'm not understanding why we're not talking about what these doctors are doing because it's wrong. You know how many patients probably are in their grave and they didn't have the disease? I live to tell my story. Everything I went through for 15 and a half years, I've lived to tell my story. But when it comes to the justice part, there's no justice for me. There's none. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to put my story out here and I'm going to tell what happened to me and I'm going to fight for change. There is no amount of money that I could ever receive that would take away what these people did to me. Never. But what I do want to see is I want to see the law change. I want to see that if doctors are purposely trying to harm patients, there is a consequence. That is what I want. I want to fight for people to stand together to say this behavior has to stop. Because again, these doctors that did this to me are still practicing medicine. So to know that nobody is saying to them what you did is wrong, they're allowing them to continue the behavior. But we got to put a stop to it. We have to change this law. We have to hold doctors accountable because this is insane. How do you treat somebody and you have a whole nother neurologist who went to school, has the same education that you have, but she stood up on her oath and said, ma'am, I want no parts of this. They were injecting you with chemicals for no reason. It was all unwarranted. To hear a medical doctor tell you that about colleagues, but yet they don't get in trouble. They can still practice medicine. They can still do whatever they want to do. And then there's nothing for me. No way I get justice. So for me, I don't have to put these doctors' names on the TV. tell the pharmaceutical companies no, but you can get your license taken. You can stop practicing medicine. I don't have to destroy you. The Bible said that God is not the author of confusion. So I don't have to publicly humiliate you, but I can still fight for what you did to me. And if you so fit decide you want to talk behind closed doors, but you're going to have to answer for what you did. And you're going to have to stop the behavior. We have all kind of reforms and accountability now. You got police accountability. I mentioned the opioid pandemic. They making doctors accountable for that. They're holding people accountable for their behavior, but they're not holding these doctors accountable. They're getting away with this, and we have to change it. And so that's why I came up with the Make It Right movement, because I want to fight to change this law. I want to figure out a way where doctors cannot hide behind the term medical malpractice, and they cannot hide behind statute of limitations, so that people can get their justice.
I agree with you. It's so much of this happening, and they figure out a way not to have it so loud where
Hmm.
we don't get to see all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even when it comes to caring for someone, just getting in there, it seems like now they take forever
Hmm.
to be able to find out what is going on with you, and they have you go through all these vicious cycles,
Hmm.
and so it's hard to even trust your doctor. You don't know who to trust. You have to, because you would have no way to read all of those medical. You trust their opinion when they're looking at everything, when they're running the test
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, that they're going to tell you the truth. And then for
Hmm.
15 years
Hmm.
someone's lying to you. They do surgery on your brain, which is major, um and you don't even have an MS. And it's a possibility you could have not made it
Hmm.
through the surgery.
Right. And it's a possibility I still may suffer in major ways because of me coming off the chemicals.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And so I'm getting choked up, so I'm sorry. Because um you tried to you tried to unalive me. That's
Mhm.
it, that's all. You used me, um and to stand and get up and say there's nothing that she can do to us. Um she can't sue us. She'll never win the case, you, like it's so hurtful. I feel like they passed me around, like they just took me, and these doctors each passed me around, and none of them stopped to say what the other one did was wrong. And so I'm just like, what now happens to me? I feel like if I don't fight, then they won. If I
Mhm.
don't try to change the law, then these doctors won. They, I feel like they're boasting. They feel like they're somebody, but
Yeah.
it's because you're not being held accountable. If these people came and said, no, don't go to work tomorrow. We taking the plaque off the wall, the certificate coming down, and you're not able to practice medicine anymore. But because they're not doing that, I guarantee you, them same pharmaceutical drugs that they gave me, they're prescribing to somebody else.
Yeah. You're not the only one, and they were so comfortable doing it.
Oh
So
my God, yeah.
they were pretty experienced at doing it.
Hmm.
So it's almost guaranteed that you're not the only one.
Hmm.
That they've been probably doing it for years. I mean, they was
Yeah,
doing it to you for 15 years, so this started way before you.
yeah.
Um, and thank you for creating this movement. Thank you for sharing your story, because people need to hear it. And we always say get a first, second, and third opinion. You have five doctors,
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
when people are, when you're going through getting tested and going through illnesses, if possible, try to go to different practices.
Yes.
Try not to stay into the same practices, because
Absolutely.
a lot of times if they're in the same practice, they probably are working together. And then
Hmm.
some of them probably feel like, oh my god, they've been treating her for this in the same practice, I better agree with what the
Yes.
doctor is saying. uh,
Hmm.
um so try to go outside and just get different opinions from different doctors that's not in the same practice,
Right.
which
Right.
I know is crazy because all of them take an oath. But
Yes.
but it's like
The they fall in love with the money.
yeah,
They fall
exactly.
in love with the money. They realize that it is a lifestyle, and if I don't have sick people, I don't get paid.
Yes, yes.
And so I I often keep telling people that this isn't about race. I'm not. I am not saying, oh my God, they did this to me because I'm a black woman. No, they're doing it to everybody. Everybody. The only color that they see is green. That's it. They see the money. They're not only doing it, they're doing it to everybody. I have, since I did my few story times, I have talked with people who same thing happened 12 years, 11 years, no justice, or their loved one passed away and they were questioning the diagnosis, but they were never able to get justice. And so I'm like, you know what? I gotta do something. And so I said, God, you put me through this for these, you allowed this for 15 years because you have an assignment for me. And my assignment is to stop the behavior. I need to make it right. I got to make it right. I have to. And so I want to spread the word. I want to spread the message because we need to fight for change. We need new laws that protect the patients, not the doctors.
I agree. I agree. So guys, you know, help Miss Powell fight for change. Stand up. The more people stand up and work together, the better things can happen.
Mhm.
How can people get a hold of you to support you?
So I have a Make It Right movement Facebook page. I also have a Make It Right YouTube page. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I started a GoFundMe, and that's all under Make It Right movement. Everything is under Make It Right movement. And I started the GoFundMe to help one with my legal fees because I work, but these lawyers are not cheap. And they're trying to fight, they're out of state. And so I did start the GoFundMe because I needed to be able to fight this in a time where I don't my statute of limitations don't run out. You know what I'm saying? So I have a limited time to get my case done. Um, so I can be reached on any of those platforms. Um, and I think my email is in my Facebook bio, but everything is under Make It Right Movement.
Yes. So guys, if you can donate, um, and go to Make It Right Facebook page, follow her, um, see things on there that where you can help support, share it with people. If you have a story to tell, share it,
Hmm.
because it's important that we all start talking. We keep so much silent,
Hmm.
and people are losing their lives or getting sicker,
Hmm.
going through so much just because people don't want to talk about these very important things that happen. So thank you so much for just being brave, talking about it, doing something about it, most
Hmm.
importantly. And I do apologize. I'm sorry that you even had to go through that, what you had to go through. um it's a lot. And
It is. It
just
is.
just dealing with the medical system at all, because we have been there. You know, me and my husband's been going to war with all of the things that he has to go through. So I really do, and I appreciate you for trusting me to coming on tonight, talking about it and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, guys, it's a lot going on in our country.
Hmm.
So please support Make It Right. Go to her Facebook page, go to her YouTube channel. If you're able to donate, go to her GoFundMe, donate to help her get her some of her legal fees paid.
Yeah.
And if you see something on there that you can support it. Support it. If you have a story to tell your story as well. And guys, like always, I want to tell you, this week we're starting a new week, and if you encounter anyone that is going through something, don't just walk past them, guys. Give them a hug and let them know that God loves them, okay? So, again, I want to thank you for tuning in another episode of Real Talk with Iris, and have a good day.
Thanks for tuning into Real Talk with Iris, with your host, Iris Wright, the talk show dedicated to making our communities better, building relationships, networking, and supporting small businesses. Join us next week as we discuss new and creative ideas to improve our neighborhoods and communities. We hope you were motivated, inspired, and encouraged with today's segment. So until next time, make today great from your friends at Real Talk with Iris and your host, Iris Wright.